A discussion on homosexuality can never gloss over one famous name, Dr. Alfred Kinsey. More popularly known as the architect or father of the homosexual revolution, Dr. Kinsey came out with an earth-shaking research result that was regarded as a pioneering work in the field of homosexuality. Published in 1948, his book entitled Sexual Behavior in the Human Male lied to the whole world, stating that at least 10% of the American men had natural homosexual desires. Coincidentally concurrent with the age of the atomic bomb, Kinsey's book was nicknamed Kinsey's A-bomb or K-bomb. For all practical purposes, Kinsey's results, which were marred by scientific errors, fell in the wrong hands and did much to embolden the homosexual activists who vociferously cried for the rights of homosexual men. Harry Hay, widely regarded as the father of homosexuals' civil rights movement, and his enthusiastic supporters, who had already spearheaded the struggle for the rights of homosexuals through the Mattachine Society, welcomed the news of the release of Kinsey's book as an important landmark in their pursuit for freedom. The ideas expressed in Kinsey's book bolstered the activists, and hence they were in the forefront of the Stonewall Rebellion, which goes into the history books as organized and groundbreaking. Kinsey's flawed research result, which was not reproducible, came under scrutiny from various corners, but since it has already won too much publicity and media coverage, genuine counter results could do nothing to discredit it. Some of these genuine research results proved, beyond reasonable doubt, that the number of homosexuals did not exceed a mere 2%, and that the causation had nothing to do with nature. Conclusive data obtained from the Kinsey Institute revealed that in the course of his research, Dr. Kinsey used the stopwatch method to observe pre-adolescent orgasms in up to 2,035 children. Nevertheless, that cruel methodology deliberately employed by Kinsey and his associates exposed the children to pedophilic acts. One of those children, who was sexually abused by her grandfather at the age of 3, bitterly wept while explaining the psychological wounds she sustained as a result of those incidents.
I was constantly afraid because I didn't like what was being done. It was something I had to do because I had to be an obedient child. But I didn't like doing it, and there were times I went into convulsions with excruciating pain in my back, spasms that hit like knife in my back. But he wasn't paying any attention to me, and that he was going to ask me some questions, and that I was to answer them correctly. And the questions would be, are you happy with your family? Do you love your daddy? And as they were about to leave, my grandfather reminded Alfred Kinsey that, what about the check? I saw the check. I saw Alfred Kinsey hand that check to my grandfather.
And it's very difficult to say.
In her revealing book entitled Kinsey, Crimes and Consequences, Dr. Judith Reisman came out with a detailed description of the fraudulent aspects of Kinsey's controversial findings after 20 years of research. Dr. Reisman's book disclosed that Kinsey and his research assistants, besides their pedophilic activities, relied heavily on diaries of child molesters. According to Reisman, Kinsey and his assistants deliberately maintained the anonymity of these pedophiles in the name of scientific research, thus protecting the identity of their sources.
All say that Kinsey was a hands-on scientist. There was nothing that he would have accepted in his book unless he had participated in it, seen it, done it for himself.
A recent publication of the New York Times came out with supportive evidence to corroborate Reisman's claims about Kinsey. In a news article entitled "Dr. Kinsey, Liberator or Pervert," the New York Times exposed to the whole world that Kinsey had maintained secret contacts with Dr. Fritz von Baliczek, a former member of the German Nazis who had committed sexual abuses on children on a large number of occasions in which one of his victims died. The article made it clear that Kinsey had on a regular basis obtained data for his study from Baliczek, whose court testimonials proved that this was so. Kinsey, who regarded himself as a social engineer, was a sadomasochistic homosexual. Although on the outside he appeared to many as a respected person of integrity, leading a fulfilled family life, Kinsey was in a constant struggle within himself in search of sexual satisfaction, for which he resorted to despicable homosexual acts. This profound sense of lack of satisfaction was so much so that he is said to have used a pocket knife to circumcise himself without anesthesia. Although his death is said to be the result of a heart attack, some, like Robert Knight, director of the American Culture and Family Institute, have said that his death is widely believed to be caused by injuries sustained during his self-mutilating activities.
He was a perverted man, deeply perverted. He may even have died of wounds that were self-inflicted during his own sexual activity because he was into self-mutilation and pain. He was a sadomasochistic homosexual.
Kinsey had deliberately attempted to invoke danger into the pillars of American societal values through his unscrupulous research camouflaged as reliable finding. Kinsey went quite a long way to make his erroneous research results acceptable by the society. He had no doubt contributed to the moral and ethical decadence of American and Western moral values. His unscrupulous methodologies and flawed results have even contributed to self-indulgence and moral sexual behaviors far beyond his country. Through his conscienceless initiatives, Kinsey had plunged millions of youth into the unfathomable sea of decadence. This researcher tried to provide another proof of legitimacy for advocates of homosexuality. Focusing the confines of his research on the part of our brain known as the hypothalamus, Livy claimed that the size of the hypothalamus in the brains of homosexuals and heterosexuals greatly varied. The research was conducted by dissecting out the hypothalamus of 41 cadavers whom he claimed to be all homosexuals. Livy said the comparatively smaller size of the hypothalamus in the homosexual men was the cause of their sexual behavior. Livy's results nevertheless came under critical scrutiny from various corners. Livy, who is himself a homosexual and who had lost his partner due to HIV/AIDS, is said to have stated that he'd rather quit research altogether unless he proved that homosexuality had a biological basis, thus gravely violating the basic principles of ethics of a researcher. Besides, other researchers have disproved the claim that homosexuality is the result of the activity of a cluster of neurons. Dr. Charles Socarides, professor of psychiatry at Albert Einstein College of Medicine,